Hey traders, welcome back to the FXC YouTube channel. I hope everyone is doing good today. First, let me apologize for slacking on the daily videos last week. I found myself trading late into New York session most of the week and it impacted my sleeping pattern. Instead of waking up in the morning, I was waking up well into the afternoon. Just to give an idea, it's 4 a.m. right now on Saturday evening. I'm still wide awake and recording this video. I'll stay up and watch the football games on Sunday night and hopefully I can fix this jet lag. Anyways, in today's video, I'll review the recent price action and analyze the markets to get some ideas where price may want to go next week, as well as including lower time frame analysis for trade ideas for Monday. So let's get into the charts and have a look in more detail. But first, starting with the fundamentals. So on Monday evening, we have Lagarde speaking during New York session. On Tuesday, we have, well, actually on Monday evening, we have an FOMC member speaking as well, but that's right before the daily close. So I'm not expecting much impact there. And on Tuesday, right before New York opens, we have Powell speaking. We have consumer confidence later on that evening. And then on Wednesday, we have Lagarde speaking 15 minutes after London open. We have other Fed members speaking during New York session, and once again Powell speaking again during New York session. On Thursday, I'm not sure these are going to have much impact, but unemployment claims as well as a Fed member speaking again, and then another one later on that evening. And then on Friday, we have some CPI estimates for the euro. 30 minutes after New York open, we have the PC price index. And just to give some idea about this indicator, it's quite similar to CPI, but it should have much less impact. But looking at the news, all in all, it's a lot less mild than what we've been seeing the last couple weeks. So anyways, let's move on to DXY. I'm going to start with the monthly time frame this week. So as you can see, the monthly candle that we have is extremely bullish. We started the month with a wick, so a push down, but then it pushed up quite strongly, especially this last week. We've come into the monthly and quarterly supply range, but we don't really have anything in terms of monthly supply zones in this area. The monthly supply zone, well, the next monthly supply zone is actually a little ways up still. But the way I see it, I mean, it's extremely bullish right now. I mean, it looks like it's just going to continue to the upside on this time frame. If we go down to the weekly, so not much different on the weekly. The last weekly candle is extremely bullish, mainly just a body for now. But we did tap into a weekly supply zone. So the weekly manipulation candle that was created here. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw somewhat of a reaction here. but at this point is more likely to be just a reaction than any sort of a reversal, like a small pullback and then continuing to the upside. I mean, based on what I'm seeing here. Anyways, let's go down a little further. So on the daily time frame, so what can we see on the daily time frame? We started the week with a nice consolidation. Kind of looked like it wanted to come down a little lower. But what happened is the interest rate hikes started to get increasingly priced in and started to push the price up on Tuesday. And in my mind, I was thinking that increasing to expectation could be thought as a disappointment, as CPI caused so much movement, but that didn't happen. It ended up pushing the dollar further. We had a pullback deep or late after the FOMC announcement into Asia, and then after started to push up from there. I believe it was right before Frankfurt Open. We started to have a reaction, and then immediately started pushing down, and then just continued most of the day after. And then Friday we had a massive push to the upside. But anyways, it did what was expected. I mean, increasing the interest rates gives strength to the currency. And as the dollar has the highest interest rates right now, it makes sense that the dollar remains extremely strong. So let's move down to the 4-hour time frame. So as I mentioned during the last video, we had a really nice reaction from supply and started to have a nice push to the downside. I was thinking that this demand could fail, and we would see continuation to the downside. But as I mentioned on the daily, the interest rate hikes started to get priced in, and thereafter we started to see a lot more strength in the dollar. So price reversed from the demand, continued to the upside, broke supply, and thereafter had a huge impulse after that. And then we get to FOMC, where you can see it pushed up, pushed down, then continued to the upside, had a nice pullback, and thereafter just pushed up like crazy, especially on Friday. But on Friday, we started to, at the end of Friday, actually really late, we started to show our first reaction. Unfortunately, the data history on any of the charts doesn't go back far enough on the 4-hour time frame to see if we're reacting off anything on this time frame. So if the high is in, then our 4-hour and daily OT levels are here and here. But as you can see, the 4-hour OT level is kind of in the middle of nowhere. But there is demand right at the 50%. So this may be a better area to look for price to pull back to, and potentially reversing and pushing back to the upside from here. The extreme could also be nice to look for pullbacks. Because not only is it is extreme demand, which also created the impulse to the upside, but we also have the daily OT level here as well. And unless DXY wants to give us a bigger pullback, then these are actually the two areas, so the 50% area and the daily OT area, that I'll be monitoring most closely. but in case we do get a bigger pullback, I would be most interested in looking at these two areas in this weekly range. But at the same time, this could just be a reaction off the supply, and could just continue the momentum and continue up from here. So we need a little more time to see what happens on Monday. But honestly, it won't take too much to get confirmation on the lower time frames for potential shifts. And if we get it, I mean, I've already given my targets that I'd be looking for the price to pull back to before ultimately reversing and pushing back to the upside. So in terms of my bias, obviously I'm bullish. Although I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see a pullback, and even from here. So I've already explained the areas I'd like to see the price come to if we do get a pullback from here. So let's just wait and see a little longer. We'll really need to see what Asia delivers for us at the start of Monday's open. And if we do start to see more signs of a shift, then could be good opportunities to look for longs on EU. So let's move on to EU now. So just let me see. Yeah, I'm on the right chart. So on the monthly time frame for EU, it's really the opposite of what we're seeing with DXY. Very strong bearish candle to the downside. We're currently at the very bottom of this demand zone. We've already had some reaction off this demand though, but it wouldn't surprise me if we had more of a reaction from here. If you look left, we consolidated like 4 or 5 months before we actually started to move price. I mean, the way price is moving, I don't really see that happening here, unless we start to see a reversal from here, which, I mean, looking at the way price is being delivered, especially on the monthly time frame, I mean, it looks like it's just going to go further to the downside. But like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see more signs of a pullback before pushing down lower. So now let's go to the weekly time frame. So weekly time frame, let me go back to forex.com where I have all my stuff marked up. I've actually pulled the demand levels from IDC onto this chart so you can see how price is reacting at those demand levels. But on the weekly, you can see that we tapped into weekly supply, reacted off of it, came right back down, and then last week we just had the continuation to the downside. So as of right now, I mean, we've come pretty deep into this lower demand zone. Based on what I'm seeing, I mean, we could have a reaction from here. I wouldn't be surprised if we had one. Reaction for a pullback at least. And then more likely than anything, just to push down lower and break this demand and continue to the downside. As I mentioned on the monthly, there was an extreme demand there. Could go down to there as well. So let's go to the daily next. So on the daily, last week you can see we continued to push to the upside at the start of the week. I was thinking it could have a chance to go a little higher into the supply zone, but once it tapped into the daily supply and cleared the daily imbalance, that was where it started to reverse from. So we started to push down. This was, yeah, it was already Tuesday. So as I was saying, the interest rate hikes were starting to get priced in on the dollar. Dollar was gaining strength. Obviously, the reaction would be to push EU down. So it came down to the lower end of the range. Had small pullback, and then after that just melted on Wednesday. And then we had the FOMC where price played around a little before once again on Friday just melting to the downside with a huge bearish candle. So we came into daily demand now, and like I said on the weekly, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a reaction from here. Maybe a pullback into supply, and then continue to the downside. So let's move to the 4 hour next. Maybe we can start yeah, let's start at the beginning of last week. So we started to consolidate in this area, pushing higher and higher. Demand was holding, came up, came into the daily imbalance. We still have 4 hour imbalance here, but for the daily we tapped that. There was this whole area was the daily supply. We had that reaction off of it, pullback to test supply, and thereafter started to push to the downside. And then so that was on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday it just melted. Had the FOMC well, push down and then push up, and then after coming right back down, and then on Friday just melting to the downside. So assuming the low is in, I mean, we're starting to have that reaction. Like I said on DXY, we don't have the history going back far enough on the 4 hour to know if we're reacting off anything. But based on what we saw on the daily and weekly, we can assume that we are. So we're starting to have that initial reaction that's more noticeable on this time frame than the other time frames. So assuming we do have a shift on the lower time frames, we haven't had one yet. You'll see that when I go on the lower time frames. We haven't had it yet, but we're really close. So there is a chance that we start to have our pullback from here. I've marked the areas of supply where price could come to. I don't really like this supply because it looks pretty weak to me. It hasn't really done anything over here. But this supply I like a lot more because this is the supply that broke the range. It's also the 4 hour OTE area, and it would clear a lot of imbalance as well that was created on the push down. If it goes higher than that, which it may, but as it's already mitigated this supply, I would expect it to go deeper into supply, use that as inducement, come into daily OTE at the same time, and this could be a good area for the price to go to, but honestly I'm not sure it's gonna pull back that much, but you never know. Could even go higher, but not really sure. That's it's in the cards right now. But anyways, as for my bias, I'm obviously really bearish right now. I wouldn't be surprised if we started to have a pullback from here though. I've already mentioned the areas I would be interested to see the price pull back to before going down further and breaking the lows again and continuing further to the downside. Although I'd love to see a reversal, honestly I'm highly doubtful that we'll see anything more than a pullback within this daily leg. I mean, just everything that we saw. I mean, the ECB increasing the rates has some reaction on the price, but ultimately, I mean, even though it seems like 75 base points was a disappointment, I mean, just look at the result. I mean, the dollar shot up and EU just shot down, or just melted to the downside. So that's why I just don't think long term, at least for now, that we're going to see any reversals from this area. But one thing I can see is if we do get that confirmation for that pullback, potentially the entire week next week could be bullish before price reaches any of the significant supply zones that I mentioned, because we don't really have so much news as well to really drive the markets with huge volatility to push the price up quickly. So it may gradually correctively pull back to these areas before reversing and starting to push back down. But for now, let's just wait for that confirmation on the shift, and then it'll be safe to look for longs. And for me, I'll probably target this 4-hour OT area. Like I said, I don't like this supply area. I mean, it hasn't really done anything. It's not really significant for me. It's more this area that makes the most sense for price to come to, at least for the first target, before reversing and coming down. And like I said, it could go up even higher. And if it does go higher into this supply area, then what I would expect is this high to be swept before reversing and coming back down. So anyways, that more or less sums up the weekly analysis. Let me go down to the 15-minute time frame and try to give some trading ideas for Monday. But like I said, I said it before, but it's really tough to give ideas for trading on Monday without seeing any Asia price action. So I mean, as of right now, it's just kind of guesses. But anyways, let me share with you some of the ideas that I have for now. So after we came down, we finally had our first initial reaction. Actually, we had some reactions here and here, but this is where well, at least we ended for the day, and we did have a really nice reaction before the market closed a little too early to give confirmation of what price wants to do. But what I'm hoping for is we break this supply zone. If we break this supply zone, this is the last point of supply on the 15-minute, I'll start looking for longs. And if we get confirmation, then I'll look for confirmation at the entries at the extreme. If we get a pullback to the extreme with a lower time frame confirmation, then definitely I'll be entering longs from here. And like I said, if we do get that confirmation, then this could be a bigger pullback that potentially could last a few days. And if that happens, I mean, especially after the rundown, after all the news, I wouldn't be surprised if we had a bigger pullback pushing the price up into supply, deeper into supply, and ultimately this would be my first target that I would be hoping the price would go to. But at the same time, if this supply holds, or potentially even the one above, because this is a more important supply, because this is the one that actually broke structure. Price came up here, consolidated, and this is a supply that actually pushed down and broke structure. This supply didn't really do so much. Yeah, we could say we created a low, pulled back, and it broke that structure. But honestly, I don't see this as being so significant compared to this. So that's why I don't think this is that strong of a supply. Although if it does break, I'll use that as a confirmation to go long. But at the same time, even if I'm long, potentially this supply could hold. If this one doesn't hold, we get our pullback, confirmation for entry, this supply could hold. I'm hoping it doesn't, because if I'm looking for longs from here, I would like to see a bigger pullback. But at the same time, this is a little stronger supply. If Asia comes into here, or maybe even London taps into there, potentially we could push further to the downside. And if we get confirmations from this supply, even if I'm long, I may start hedging and looking for shorts as well. But we really need to see Asia price action to have more clarity which way to look for trades during London. But as I said, it would be nice if supply broke and we could play the pullback, because that could be a pretty massive trade, especially if it goes all the way back up to the 4-hour OT area. Okay, well anyways, that sums up my trade ideas for Monday, also the weekend analysis. So essentially summing up this video as well. So hopefully you guys found it useful. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on price action next week. You can do that by leaving a comment below. And as a reminder, if you found value in this video, please be sure to click the like button. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Enjoy the rest of the weekend, and looking forward to seeing you for the next one. Seeing you soon. Peace. Hey, you made it to the very end. Thanks for that. If you could do me one more favor and click the like button and subscribe if you haven't already, it'll allow the YouTube algos to kick in and help this channel grow. Thanks again. Cheers.